Nobody wants just a job anymore. People want a career.
Labor, work, the workforce, it is all evolving. Employees have many options, and employers are working to make sure those options and opportunities are known.
We have to change our thinking about them and adapt to where they are.
In certain areas, you're talking six figures all day long.
For many workers, it's all about work-life balance.
Personally think I work better working from home.
And that can mean flexibility and benefits.
We've done a lot of employee engagement surveys, and again, it's been through the roof recently, and it's all the perks that we give back to our employees.
We're all facing challenges when it comes to making work and family happy at the same time. It's a delicate balance, which is creating unique situations and pushes people to their limits.
There's no question that burnout causes people to leave.
And burnout can lead to larger issues. Quiet quitting is just one. And according to experts, rethinking employer-employee dynamics might be a necessary step to fixing things.
This ideal worker notion in the past that you separate your personal life and focus on your professional life while at work at least is not sustainable.
It does come back down to people, and people have stories and lives, and you have to meet them where they're at.
Some are shifting gears and changing professions.
I did not have all the funds that I needed to come back to school as a student, and this program is giving me that opportunity.
And if change is what you're looking for, there are options.
I'm going to be doing something that I really love. The opportunity is there, and I'm taking it.
A major issue around the country is labor trafficking, which is more widespread than you might suspect. But groups are working to stop the inhumane treatment of people simply trying to make ends meet.
A person who is a victim of either sex trafficking or labor trafficking, which is our expertise, can sue their employer.
You can always trust someone out there. Speak. If you have opportunity, make that one phone call.
Hey everybody, I'm Louis Bolden, and this is Solutionaries. Our show focuses on finding the creative thinkers and amazing doers, fixing problems in our communities. Today, what's working and who isn't? A look at work and labor and the solutions making things better. Today we start in Detroit, focusing on solutions to burnout, quiet quitting, quiet firing, and more.
What you're finding now is just a general level of exhaustion in the workforce, which is leading to apathy. And people are just getting so burnt out that they really almost stopped caring.
We don't get paid enough to do half of what we're doing now.
Pretty much feeling burnt out, and then on your days off you don't have energy for like life. I had to force her to come out with me today.
Lydia and Robin are best friends and hairdressers in competing salons. Both say they're burned out and close to quitting.
I don't feel the same that I used to feel. Like, just sometimes I feel like a shell. You know what I'm saying?
I had to actually cut my hours down this week because I'm constantly going and getting shots for pain for my nerves because I'm on my feet nonstop.
The last place I worked at, she ran 20 different stores, and I don't understand how you can do that as one person.
Worker burnout is getting worse, according to Indeed, a giant job aggregator site. Its survey of 1,500 U.S. workers compared findings in 2021 against a pre-pandemic study. It found more than half of respondents feel burned out, and more than 2/3 believe the feeling has worsened over the pandemic. Those who work virtually are more likely to say burnout has worsened over the course of the pandemic than those working on site.
We're finding everywhere we go, if the employer does not tie to the values of the employee and vice versa, then what we see is more burnout, more disengagement, because they don't see the point in being there.
David Strubler is a professor in the Department of Organizational Leadership at Oakland University.
There's no question that burnout causes people to leave. Now, there's other things that happen with burnout. I become a cynic. I become toxic, I become negative. And of course, that has a terrible effect inside the workforce because you end up with a whole culture of toxicity.
Quiet quitting is the latest workplace buzzword that's getting a lot of attention. Now, definitions vary. It can either focus on setting realistic boundaries to prevent burnout or just not going the extra mile.
You mentioned this expression, quiet quitting. In some ways, it might be unfair because it captures all people as being slackers. And of course, there can be slackers, but there are people who have legitimate points about the notion that, well, you want me to give up my life for work and be this so-called ideal worker. And businesses love the expression of organizational citizenship behavior, which means unpaid labor. But at the same time, you can't have a sustainable organization where there's no trust.
Jeffrey Sanchez Burks is a professor of management organization at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business.
This ideal worker notion in the past that you separate your personal life and focus on your professional life while at work, at least, is not sustainable.
Both professors say addressing worker burnout and quiet quitting requires setting boundaries and having an open dialogue.
Something employers need to pay attention to is often they think, oh, the most important thing is that you're here from 8 to 5. But what if I'm doing quiet quitting on the job? Because I can't manage my work life and family at the same time. So my productivity goes down. That costs a huge amount of money.
Professor Strubler says replacing a worker who quits costs the company about 45% of the worker's salary. Productivity plummets with no one to do the job, and now you're paying a recruiter to conduct interviews. Then, once a new worker is hired, you have to train them.
Just figure the law. That should encourage employers to start creating environments of civility, environments of respect, environments of engagement.
I have a wonderful colleague, Amy Wierzyniewski, over at Yale, who talks about purpose. And if we can find purpose in our work, then that whole facet of life can be much more rewarding. While we want to think about ways in which we can make work more rewarding for us personally, at the same time, I think it's quite legitimate for people to say, all of my non-work life matters a lot. The times with my family and friends and or pets, whatnot, matter. And so I do need to craft a life that allows me to devote the energies I want to that as well.
Then there's the phenomenon of quiet firing. That's when a worker feels like they have no other choice but to quit. So some examples of that could be feeling like you've been passed over for several promotions or not getting a raise in years.
Companies don't listen to the people that are working for them, and then the people that have been loyal and have worked through the whole pandemic and stuff, they're just being put on the back burner. And then they hire new people that don't show up, they don't do anything, and they get put on at a higher pay rate than we do, and that's not fair.
What do you think are some solutions then to kind of address worker burnout?
Just listen to what your employees are saying. Don't say, well, I've been doing this for so and so years. Well, clearly something's wrong because everyone's quitting. So listen to the people that are actually working for you, not what you think is right.
There are steps companies can take to retain quality workers.
Before the pandemic, a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders thought things like emotional intelligence or empathy were things that, well, that would be great if I had it, but I don't need to. I've got plenty of work. Times are good and so forth. Now I'm not finding as many leaders who are so cavalier. They're hungry to find ways to make closer connections with their workforce, with new talent, with trying to make sure that when people start, if they've hired them, they stay and don't quit after the first day, which is happening as well.
There are limitations to addressing worker burnout. Not everyone can quit until they find a better fit, and not everyone can work remotely.
A clear limitation to everything I've said is I've completely omitted entire discussions about wages. And what's a fair wage, and what's a fair split between profits to shareholders versus wages and profits that should go to wages. No amount of empathy can make up for the fact that equitable compensation it matters.
We're in what we call the hyper-modern world now. Hyper speed, hyper anxiety, hyper individualism, hyper everything. And because of that, that's the context in which we're swimming, so to speak, the sea in which we're swimming. This is a limitation that we're faced with, but we have to find a way in it.
I'm optimistic about the number of companies and the number of leaders who are taking this seriously, that if we come up with a more empathetic approach to the organization, we're going to have something that's more sustainable in people's lives. It's going to help them with happiness, which we know is all-time lows, with stress, which is extremely high, with burnout, with unfair compensation. This is an interesting time, an interesting reckoning, and I'm optimistic that the relevant issues are being talked about, and I think that increases the odds that they'll be given the attention they need rather than just brushed under the table.
Businesses need to rethink that whole process to lift up the different benefits they have, to lift up the different community investment they have, to position their jobs differently than they did before pandemic.
I'm Rohani. I'm a lawyer in New York City. I work in the finance department of a law firm.
The city that never sleeps can be both energizing and exhausting. And while it may look like Rohani Mayera's working from her NYC office, zoom out and you'll see a different backdrop.
Come on.
Is it a good change from New York?
Yeah, it's been really incredible to be here.
She's on a 1-month getaway in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. But this is no vacation.
I think the actual documents are good. I have a full setup. I actually have an excellent setup. As you can see, I have a big monitor. My laptop's connected.
Her law firm is allowing its staff to work from anywhere in the world for 30 days. She chose this short-term rental as her temporary office.
Some of your colleagues, where are they working from?
There are people they're in Maine. A lot of people are visiting family around the country. There are a couple of people in Europe.
Have you had problems staying focused?
No, I personally think I work better working from home. There's less distractions, there's less people coming in and out of the office. So it's quiet when I want it to be, and I can step outside when I need to.
College students we spoke to seem to be in consensus.
Something that I can work from home basically because I want to travel.
I don't want to just be in a confined space, so anywhere around the world would be nice.
Thanks to the pandemic, technology, and just trends, traditional office life is becoming less appealing.
So you don't want to go into an office,
no.
Dress up?
No, 9 to 5, sit in a cubicle, no.
So you want a job where you can work from anywhere in the world?
Yes.
And still get paid?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think you can get it?
I think I could.
And there is research about this as more and more people find working remote to be appealing. Let's take a look at some of the studies from OWL Labs. They surveyed people all across the world. Globally, 56% of companies allow remote work. 16% of businesses are fully remote. Those who work remotely are 24% more likely to feel happy and productive in their roles versus those who don't or cannot work remotely. 34% of American workers would take a pay cut, up to 5%, for the ability to work remotely. The number of job postings that offered hybrid work increased by 52% in the period between September 2021 and August 2022. That's according to FlexJobs. And other trends include a 4-day work week, a wellness stipend, and something as simple as snacks.
Do you think this generation wants more flexibility?
I think that this generation had 2 years of
having to be flexible with the COVID pandemic. And so that they have the ability to work from home, they've demonstrated it. And so now they know that they can apply it. So my name is Scott Curry. I'm the Senior Director of Industry Engagement for UNF Career Services.
What do you do?
So basically my job is to get students jobs. I work and interact with employer partners to help them create internship programs, experiential learning, and career opportunities for our students.
A lot of people will say, look at this generation. They're on their phones, they're on their computers. They're not working as hard because they're not going into the office. What's your response to that?
It's a different type of work. Students are able to get a lot done on their phone when it comes to work. A lot of opportunities are remote and allow students to get work done, from the field or from, their living room. So I think it depends on the position. I think it depends on the applicant.
Yeah. So there's still quality out there?
Absolutely.
He points out that some companies still prefer in-person, making going to work more of an experience than a job.
The compression boots, which a lot of pro athletes have been using, those compression boots that help with recovery. They have the therapy gun devices that all staff members can come down between calls or between work or before and after their workouts, and they can really use these recovery services that they have. Equally, there's a yoga teacher who comes in.
The CSI companies in Jacksonville offer recruiting, IT, and staffing. They immerse employees in an environment that includes massages, sports games, and concerts.
We've realized to retain them, we got to keep it a fun setting. So whether you take a break to go play pool or to shuffleboard or to go down in the gym, go to a yoga session, it's been a way for people to kind of get work done by still collaborating with their team in a different setting. So it's been a great way to work off some steam.
This is Joseph with CSI Tech. How are you doing today?
COO Kate Mays says in a competitive job market, offering perks has its perks.
We've done a lot of employee engagement surveys, and again, it's been through the roof recently, and it's all the perks that we give back to our employees. We've had dramatic success over the past couple of years, and our growth trajectory is through the roof, and we put it back to the culture.
Money can be made.
Oh, yeah. I was able to pay all my bills off, pay my house off. In fact, I bought another house for a rental. So that's all because of the iron workers.
The happiest moments. The heroes who inspire. Something good is happening here. Search for Something Good Show on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Something Good. The good news you need.
I can't emphasize enough, college isn't for everybody. College is great if you are into the academics and it will prepare you for the world, but there's an alternative path.
I never wanted to be 9 to 5. And I walked in, I saw all this steel, and I said, oh my God, what have I got into?
My name is Bobby Nost, and I've been an iron worker since 1984. Any regrets all those years later? Absolutely not.
Some say they're part of a fading tradition, a legacy of steel, welding, and hard work. The American iron worker.
Any infrastructure that you see in this country, any skeleton, every building, every bridge, every skyscraper starts with us. How would you describe the life of an iron worker?
It is a hard, difficult job. I've done 14, 15-hour days. It's not a 9 to 5, it's more of a lifestyle. If you're willing to work and not afraid of heights, it's definitely something to look into. I had to replace the lightning cables on pad 40 after the rocket blew up at SpaceX, and that was I think that's like 305 feet or something like that.
You didn't blink?
That's the job.
Daniel Aldinger is a third-generation union man, a journeyman iron worker for nearly 2 decades now.
Being in a union was something that was instilled in me very young.
Aldinger is in his early 40s, a family man with financial security.
And I got medical insurance. I have a pension. and an annuity.
But he wonders about the next generation.
You know, for a long time in this country, we've put the trades on the back burner. The average age of the tradesman is just kind of creeping up and up and up.
Your average age of a welder, I think, is in the 40s or 50s these days.
Jason Jagiri, like Aldinger, is in his 40s.
A trade school is just as good as going to college.
He tells News 6 he's seeing fewer men join the ranks of the paid apprentice program. In fact, the men on this crew are two of the last in line.
How important is that apprentice program? Very important. So anybody can come in with no skills at all.
Put my side in first.
By the end of your 4 years, you're completely certified in all different aspects of the ironworking trade.
That's money.
It's earn while you learn. It does not cost them anything. There's no college loans once they get done.
Ground him off to that clip over there to the structure.
And I think the apprentice numbers right now are at about 15,000 apprentices. And we really are striving around the country to get that number more up towards 20,000.
Start cutting out that deck whenever you get a chance, all right? The people that actually come out here and work in the field is a dying breed.
In the next 10 years, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projects America will need more than 16,000 iron workers. That's based on 9,000 additional iron workers, and more importantly, more than 7,000 on the job now, expected to retire. So you're telling me you need more people?
Oh yes, everybody does, yes. It's a nationwide thing.
Bobby Nost is the union's business manager and architect of Local 808's push to hire new personnel. How many people can you bring in?
Well, it's unlimited. You have to balance the work that you have and the contractors that you have, and you bring up the people to fill it.
Part of that strategy, the lure of the union benefits package.
Our worker is making a whole package of $44 an hour, $27, $25 on their pocket, we call it on the hip, and then $16 worth of benefits.
So money can be made.
Oh, yes.
I was able to pay all my bills off, pay my house off. In fact, I bought another house for a rental. So that's all because of the iron workers.
Real good welders, you're talking about six figures. I mean, it's real good right now. In certain areas, you're talking six figures all day long.
Kenny Waugh is the Director Industry Liaison for the International Iron Workers based in Washington, D.C.
We are in job fairs all over the country daily.
Think of him as Bobby Nost's counterpart on the national-international stage, recruiting potential workers from Orlando, Jacksonville, Houston, Detroit, just a fraction of the 157 union offices hiring in the U.S. and Canada.
We can put people to work in every city you just mentioned. It's all over. If the iron worker wants to travel just a little bit, he can always go next door and go to work in that local. That's the simplicity about our setup. If you have a journey card, a journeyman's card, you can go anywhere you want.
What about the next generation? Why aren't there takers right now?
You know, that's a really tough question, and I think we have to eliminate the stigma that this is just a job you have at the summer in between colleges, because this is more than a job. Like, this is my career, this is my life.
Is it possibly that they don't understand what the job's all about?
I think it's that they don't understand, and I think that we need to do a better job at maybe getting it out there to them. I call it the best kept secret.
The iron workers have identified the challenge to recruit the next generation.
We're coming at every angle there is. We're in PTA meetings, you know, as young as some kids 10 or 12 years old that we're getting in front of. You can't start too young.
A 21st century recruiting blitz built to grab the attention of the smartphone generation in person and via social media platforms.
These young people were born with something electronic in their hand. We have to change our thinking about them and adapt to where they are and use what they have as skills and what we sometimes think is a hindrance and make it positive. And I think that's what's going to make it different.
Solutions can be hard to come by, but our team is working to bring them to you. Maybe you know of an issue that needs answers. If you do, we want to know about them. Head to solutionariesnetwork.com and send us your ideas and your feedback. Become part of the conversation.
I started working with him in 2010 in Nigeria. I work as
house help. I do everything in the house, take care of the kids. He was a good man. Everything was good.
When did he start talking to you about coming to the United States?
He never said anything. He just said, go get your passport. You're going to the United States, and that's it. I never knew it was gonna be permanent.
Blessing Daniel is talking about her former boss, actual Nigerian prince Eze Matamir. And the court records we went through show that he brought her here on a tourist visa and put her to work at his house in a Houston suburb.
She was working there, essentially 24/7 for her waking hours. Instead of paying her wages like you should normally, he told her that he would be sending money to her family in Nigeria. My name is Dokwang Daniel Pham. I am a staff attorney for the Equal Justice Center. We help people who have suffered some sort of issue in the workplace, be it wage theft or employment discrimination, and we help them get justice against the employers that have wronged them.
There was no promises here, but there was promises back in Nigeria before coming, like taking care of my child, my daughter, paying her school fees, getting me a hair salon here.
You had to leave your daughter?
Yes, I didn't come with her.
How old is she?
She was 8 as of that time.
That must have been hard.
One of the hardest things ever. Yes.
What did they tell you would happen if you left?
I don't know, I want to say that.
Labor trafficking is the use of force, fraud, and coercion for the purpose of obtaining someone for modern-day slavery, for debt bondage or forced labor.
Human trafficking isn't just kidnapping. It isn't just abduction. Human trafficking usually is done by someone who has a close relationship or kinship to you and is taking advantage of that. My name is Samantha Ledesma, and I am with YMCA International, which is a part of YMCA Greater Houston.
My name is Elise Grissmeyer. I'm the Associate Legal Director for the Cabrini Center for Immigration Legal Services for Catholic Charities. We work exclusively with foreign national survivors of labor trafficking and sex trafficking. And I think when we see stories about trafficking in the media, they tend to take either the form of smuggling, immigrants found in the back of an 18-wheeler, or they take the shape of sex trafficking for young American girls. And both of those things are so narrow in focus that we miss how broad trafficking is. That trick we see is typically, come work for me, I'll pay you a minimum wage waitressing job. And then you get here and you find out it's something else.
A lot of these labor trafficking cases can be with foreign nationals, with somebody who is undocumented in the U.S.
While many victims of trafficking are undocumented, there are those, like Daniel's, who come to the U.S. on tourist visas. Then there are those who come here on worker visas.
So the H-2A and H-2B program specifically are brought in to fill gaps in employment here in the United States. They can apply for visas to bring people into the country. Those visas, however, are tied to that specific employer. So there's this huge power imbalance between the employer and employees. And if they complain about working conditions or hours or the type of work that they're being forced to do, they know that their employer could have them deported at any moment.
So whether it's psychological or physical, if that person feels that they cannot leave that labor situation, that work, that turns into labor trafficking.
A lot of abuse crops up in that system that could be easily resolved if we gave immigrants more flexibility to work within that same field, but the ability to change employers.
The United States allows 88 countries to apply for H-2 visas. Between 2018 and 2020, more than 15,800 people were identified by the human trafficking hotline as labor trafficking victims. Nearly 3,700 were holding an H-2 visa. Again, people with these visas cannot change jobs to escape their situation. In Daniel's case, it took a call to get her out.
I was going to church at first. I started to make friends, and when they realized I was making friends, they stopped me from going to church. I never had a phone. They never got me one. They said I had no one to call.
When her family friends eventually learned that she was in Houston and working for this Nigerian politician, they basically asked, we want to see you, we want to spend time with you, and she wasn't able to do that under her employer's orders. Eventually they figured, something might be wrong, and they essentially called the police.
Do you remember the day that the police showed up at your house?
Just like right now. I would never forget that.
Were you scared going with the police?
At first, yes.
What did you think was going to happen?
I thought I was gonna be deported. The fear in me, like, I had no idea what was going on. They said it was human trafficking, and I had no idea I was going through that.
So a person who is a victim of either sex trafficking or labor trafficking, which is our expertise, can sue their employer and recoup damages related to the mental anguish that they've suffered and the wages that they should have gotten. So it was the YMCA International working on the immigration half of Ms. Daniels' case that eventually referred her to us to do a civil lawsuit.
How was that settled?
It's settled for a decent amount of money.
We did try to speak with the prince about this case. His attorney emailed us a statement reading the prince was traumatized by the allegations and he filed a counterclaim for defamation. They both ended up settling and closing their claims against each other.
We haven't seen a lot of criminal prosecution on the cases that we've been working on.
It's hard to grapple with this definition and understand that labor trafficking is not just a workplace violation, it's also a human rights violation.
With the resources that law enforcement has, it's still a difficult case to prosecute. Kenneth Magidson, former U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of Texas.
Is it easier to go after the sex trafficking, because that usually involves multiple women with more clear-cut signs of other crimes being committed, versus the one person who is a domestic servant?
The federal resources in law enforcement are always stretched thin because there's so many demands upon what kind of cases they take. Even in the sense of forced labor, they're always going to be looked at in terms of multi-state investigations. In other words, is this something that's being done by a cartel? Is this something that's being done by organized crime? But we have to put the infrastructure in to handle the immigration problem. And right now, we don't have that infrastructure. We just have law enforcement at the border trying to stop people.
That infrastructure could come in the form of two paths. Both require bipartisan support at our nation's capital, which is hard to accomplish these days. Remember those visas. The first path would require a change to how employers who sponsor immigrant workers are properly vetted or monitored. It would also give visa holders the opportunity to change jobs if their employer was abusing their position. Nationally, the second path lands on enforcing current laws, and it would require a joint effort from law enforcement, federal agencies, state and city leaders, and grassroots or nonprofit advocates.
There's also a huge coalition, which is the Houston Rescue and Restore Coalition, that has over 50 organizations working together to really fix these gaps in services.
We have a trafficking victims assistance program through our refugee resettlement program that can do financial assistance and case management and counseling and shelter and food and GED classes or whatever it is that they might need. We also know that Houston is a model for the response to human trafficking, that we had one of the first federally funded task forces to address human trafficking, that our mayor's office has set up a task force as well, and it's been used as a model not only nationally but internationally as well.
So for whoever is going through what I went through, I want to say speak to somebody. You can always trust someone out there. Speak. If you have opportunity, make that one phone call, and that's it.
G3 is free for students. They don't have to pay that money back?
No, this is a grant. It's not a loan. So no, they don't have to pay anything back.
Facts have never been more important than now. They can be the difference between life and death. Rely on the Trust Index, your first line of defense against disinformation. Just look for the seal. It's true means it passed the test, and we can back it up. Not true means it's fake. Don't trust it. And be careful means not entirely right or wrong, but it could be risky. In the battle against disinformation, no fact is off the table. If it seems suspicious, send it to us and we'll get answers. Look for the Trust Index on the stations and websites of Graham Media Group.
Now you can take classes for free. I just don't think people realize that. They could train for something, right now and go into a pretty good paying job and not even have to pay for the classes. And it would work within their schedule. A lot of the classes right now are online where people could do them while working.
We are experiencing a labor shortage in high-demand fields.
We're reaching out to those and saying, you know, you may want to change your career field. Change is scary, very, very scary. How can we help the citizens, our current students, prospective students, employers, to meet these needs?
I probably would not be here right now. This program is giving me that opportunity.
This will propel Virginia forward. I'm Elizabeth Wilmer, Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs at Virginia Western Community College. We are experiencing a labor shortage in high-demand fields such as IT and healthcare, early childhood development, those type of fields.
And so what has Virginia's response been to that problem?
Is to create the G3 grant, which means get skilled, get a job, and get ahead. And this is a grant that helps students afford college in those high-demand areas.
I am working, I'm working full-time, but I did not have all of the funds that I needed to come back to school as a student, and this program is giving me that opportunity so that I can do that. Some of my books I paid for, some of the books were paid for by the program, so it's been really a good opportunity for me. I just wanted to change, I wanted to do something different. And Virginia Western's here, they have the program. I thought it would be a good opportunity for me now.
What do you think it would have been like without G3?
It would have taken me longer, and I probably would not be here right now. There would have been, I have so many other obligations, and I was looking at all of these other things, and I just didn't see a way for me to do this and complete what I wanted to do. And so this is giving me the opportunity to do that, and to get my degree, because I don't have it, and if you want to go far, you need a degree, in my opinion.
And G3 is free for students. They don't have to pay that money back?
No, this is a grant, it's not a loan, so no, they don't have to pay anything back.
So this kind of helps in two ways. It helps employers get the people they need to run a business, but it also helps students pay for college.
That's exactly right, yes. It really will help the economy of the Roanoke Valley by having more employees that are trained, well-trained, because Virginia Western can do a great job at training those employees to be skilled workers. So the categories are healthcare, IT, early childhood development, the trades and manufacturing, and public service. There are many different programs that they can choose from within those categories. For example, let's take healthcare. We offer 9 different degrees in healthcare. We have nursing, practical nursing, radiography, radiation oncology, surgical technology, physical therapy assistant, medical lab technology.
When our family first came to the country, my dad got really sick and he'd been hospitalized in Korea for many years. So healthcare environment wasn't too strange for me. When I see the nurse taking care of the patient, I really want to be one of them. My name is Thanh Nguyen. I'm a medical assistant at Korean Clinic Internal Medicine. So I think the two important things that people can gain from the program is financial support and opportunities. When I applied for the program, I wasn't a US citizen. So it would be more expensive for me and it would be harder for me to be in the program. But thanks to the G3 program, I'm able to make it because my parents at that time weren't able to support me based on their income.
How does it work?
First, the student has to fill out the FAFSA, the Student Financial Aid Form, and G3 is a last dollar grant, which means that first they get their financial aid or any other scholarships and grants that they qualify for. Then G3 pays for the rest of their tuition, fees, books, and if they qualify for full financial aid, it will give them a stipend, a semester-based stipend that they can use for living expenses.
Since last summer, Virginia Western has used more than $1.2 million in G3 funding to help more than 1,300 students. When you add all 23 Virginia community colleges together, that number is much higher.
And even if you don't qualify for federal financial aid, you can still receive G3. G3 has funds for those students that don't qualify but still fall within 400% of the federal poverty level. So for a family of 4 that makes $100,000 or less roughly, they can still qualify for G3 even if they don't qualify for federal financial aid.
Is there any other state that's doing something like this?
You know, there are several other states doing different types of, like for example, Tennessee's Promise Grant or Georgia's Hope Grant, that do different things to help support students, to support community colleges. But this is unusual in that it supports high demand fields. So it's not every program that the college offers, but it's those that are high demand in terms of employment needs.
Are there limitations to these programs?
You have to be eligible for the program. You have to be a Virginia resident. You have to take at least 6 credits a semester. And again, you have to apply for financial aid using the FAFSA.
Being able to have access to programs like these, what does it mean to you?
It means that you can grow. This is an opportunity for me. Even though that I'm working and I have other obligations, it opens up a door so that I can excel in the fields that I want to excel. And it won't be just I'm going to work because I need a job. But this time around, it's going to be, I'm going to be doing something that I really love. The opportunity is there and I'm taking it.
It really begins with the resident who has this moment where they're looking for access to resources and an opportunity to improve their skill set, then ultimately change the trajectory of their life.
At KSAT Explains, we take one topic, add a team of journalists, and dive in. Then we stream it for free on KSAT.com and the KSAT TV app. Sometimes serious, sometimes fun, always interesting. Go beyond the headlines with KSAT Explains.
We did 2 surveys at Bankrate of the American public, and they both came in basically the same way, that 55% of those who were employed were going to look for a new job in the coming 12 months, and what they were looking for, even at a higher level than higher pay, was the ability to work remote and to have more flexible hours, and those are lessons that have been learned only because of the pandemic.
Positions waiting to be filled. Job seekers searching for better opportunities. It's not something new. According to the City of San Antonio, vacancies are common for most departments. So what would it take to get these spots filled? Some believe it's a layered issue.
The idea of labor shortage means different things, and it's not just there's not enough people and there's more jobs than people. There's probably some of that, but I think are we helping everyone reach their full potential and developing the skills needed to compete for those jobs, and doing so at a pace and a rhythm that produces people with those skill sets to meet those jobs. I think that's the biggest question, but that's also the biggest opportunity. We focus on those individuals that have opportunities to help improve their skills, but don't have access to the resources, the financial support, the coaching that's needed to help them navigate a training program or a career path and then get them job ready. As a result of our services and the upskilling and putting people in jobs where they can take care of their families and be contributors to our economy, that Quest returned about $1.7 billion back in economic impact to the community.
Those in-demand careers include healthcare, information technology, and different trades.
It really begins with the resident who has this moment where they're looking for access to resources and an opportunity to improve their skill set, then ultimately change the trajectory of their life.
That's a good question. Why now? Because the struggle, like I just got tired. I'm just so tired of struggling, going from different job to different job, and you know, I just want to live better for myself and for my family.
That aha moment came after the birth of Jeroice's son. He's enrolled in a commercial driver's license program at Alamo Colleges, a training institution partnered with Project Quest.
How did you get connected to the CDL program? And why specifically something like that?
I got connected to the CDL program with a family friend. I was just really trying to do anything just to make more money, and then she said something about the Project Quest, and then everything else was history. I done did temp services, I done did like warehouse jobs, and like what else did I do? I was doing like little side gigs too, but nothing just clicked and nothing stayed. So I'm just glad finally I'm at a point where it's just something that okay, well, you know, I can do this.
Workforce development or labor, it does come back down to people. And people have stories and lives, and you have to meet them where they're at, but seeing the transformation on the back end makes all the work that we do very, very gratifying.
And thank you so much for watching. While this might be the end of the show, the discussion is just beginning. We'll have a lot more on work, labor, and much more on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Solutionaries. And while you're there, check out our survey about work and labor. We want to hear your thoughts on the topic, and your voice deserves to be heard. You can also leave us a comment and subscribe and share. Sharing solutions helps everyone. If you know of smart solutionaries in your community, tell us about them. Head to solutionariesnetwork.com. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Lewis Bolden.